All right. This is Bob Maloney from MyMMAnews.com, and you heard me say it a million times. I'm going to keep saying it. Philly MMA, baby. Philly MMA is so hot right now. We have more guys in the UFC collecting wins and making their mark, and we have a funnel line of underneath coming of more fighters who are building their way there. And my guest tonight is Ian Allston. Ian Allston is another member of the Philly MMA community. He's 2-0 as a pro now. He's coming off his second consecutive stoppage at CFFC 112, 2-0 pro. Ian, man, got to feel good. Let's just say, how you feeling, man? It's got to feel good. Listen, you won a fight. You won in the first round impressively. How you feel, my man?
Well, Bob, let me just say this. I'm really happy to be doing this interview with you because this is who I don't know if you remember, but back in the day when I started with Art of War, you were the man on the mic. So I'm happy to be doing the interview with you. I feel great. I didn't take any damage in that fight, and now I'm just enjoying some relaxing time with the family.
Well, I love what you did with your career. You took your time as an amateur before you went pro. Talk to me a little bit. When did you find, what made you fall? When did you and what made you fall in love with mixed martial arts and you knew that you wanted to actually try to fight for a career?
So, I mean, this is a story I've told a few times, but I got into mixed martial arts. I mean, martial arts in general. I started with Muay Thai when I was 14, and I got into it by accident. I just happened to try a Muay Thai class at Semper Fi Mixed Martial Arts Academy in Fox Chase, and a friend of mine had trained there before. I had been taking guitar lessons across the street, actually, at a place called Cintioli's, and I wasn't very good at the guitar, so I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to give it a shot with the Muay Thai stuff, and I stuck around. I had some good coaches around me, and when I turned 17, one of my coaches offered to put me on a fight card with USKA, and I won. I got my hand raised at the end of the night, and that, as they say, the rest is history. I couldn't get enough of that feeling, So I had a couple of those kickboxing fights, and they went well, and eventually I started training down with Daniel Gracie on American Street, back where the old gym used to be at Enzo Gracie, Philadelphia. And one day, just like before, he stopped me and just by circumstance said, "Hey, Ian, would you want to fight May 18th, 2018? He said, "Would you want to fight on Art of War 7 on May 18th?" And I said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." And it ended the same way. I got the first round finish, and that was it. I couldn't stop from there on out.
Well, Ian, like you said, I was there, and let me just say, listen, I follow all the guys in Philly, but watching you and your career from where you were to where you are now, I always thought that you had talent. You definitely were rolling and committed to jiu-jitsu and you had hand talent, but the biggest difference to me now is your conditioning. And don't get me wrong, your striking has definitely been tightened up, but I still thought you had hand power and hand talent as you were coming up. But right now, that cardio and that strength and conditioning, talk to me a little bit about, the commitment and what you did, because you look now like you're in the best shape of your life as a heavyweight and you're out there looking lean and mean.
Yeah, so I mean, when things really kicked off for me career-wise was that fight with Pat Brady back in 2020. But at the time, I was out of shape. You saw Pat; he tied me up on the wall, and I couldn't move him. And so the only place I was really effective was out in the center when we got into the exchanges. So after that, we had the COVID pause, and during that time, I gained a lot of weight, and a lot of stuff happened in my personal life where I was like just ballooning up and. Before the Raiden Keller fight, actually, or Raiden Kovac now, that's his, he changed his name. But before that fight, I had gotten with Mike Campbell is his name. He's the main strength and conditioning guy for our team over at Marquez MMA. And he and I struck up a friendship, and he saw something in me that I had a natural athleticism for the weight class, and he really wanted to capitalize on that. So I changed my diet up. I started eating a lot healthier. I tried to really take care of my mental health is a big part of it. And even though we lost that fight with Raiden Kovac, sorry, after that, I went even harder on the strength and conditioning. I thought, okay, that didn't go well. What do we need to reevaluate? What do we need to change? And so every day I was in the gym from, if I had practice at 10, I was there until 2, 3 p.m. after practice, working my strength and conditioning with Mike Campbell. And then after that, I was at jiu-jitsu and I was working there, and I would get workouts in at night. And, really it's been spending the appropriate amount of time honing my craft, both as an athlete and as a martial artist, and putting in the extra hours that nobody really sees that have given me, I had a good gas tank even when I was out of shape. But now that I've seen that and I've capitalized on that and I've done the things necessary to improve it even more, it's one of my biggest assets now, I would say.
Absolutely. Cardio. Listen, when we talk about, fights, cardio is like the difference so many times, even more than skill level. If a fight is close, a lot of times it comes down to cardio in that last. And like I said, you've done an amazing job. Let's talk about your gym. Okay. You train several different places, but, I walked in, you walk into, Daniel Gracie's place or Marquez's place, and you're seeing, the team that's in there. I mean, everybody's in there. They haven't lost in the UFC. You're talking about Sean Brady, Pat Sabatini, Andre Petrosky, Jeremiah Wells, Joe Bodybags Pfeiffer. I mean, the list goes on and on over there of talent. Does that kind of like give you even more motivation seeing how hard those guys are working? And listen, if you need to pick somebody's brain, I know all those guys over there. I know every single one of those guys will talk to you and pump you up and tell you what you need. So having that kind of camaraderie there, talk to me a little bit about that influence on you.
I mean, just thinking about where we came from as far as, so let me turn the clock back a little bit and talk about how we started with Renzo Gracie Philly and EEFC, which became Marquez MMA. We were a hole-in-the-wall gym at one point. You know what I mean? Obviously, Daniel Gracie's name carries a lot of weight, and that was still a mecca as far as guys in the area who wanted to come and get hard training in. I mean, look, you had Paul Felder coming out of there at an early time. You had Jared Flash Gordon, who was in there training hard every day. You have Ariel Sexton, who is a student of Daniel Gracie. So the lineage as far as these high-level guys goes back far for Daniel. But the thing about Daniel Gracie and Marquez MMA is that Daniel and John Marquez, they build UFC fighters. They build champions. So Jeremiah Wells has been in the UFC, has been with Daniel long before he was in the UFC. I've known Sean since I was 14. He's been there long since he was in the UFC. Joe and Andre, they were at Balance. They made the switch, and then they got into the UFC. You know what I mean? These are all Pat Sabatini, guy on the MMA scene who's been forever and been with Daniel for a very long time. These are guys who are building champions, adding to their skill set. So, yeah, I mean, when I look around, these are my friends, guys who I've grown up around. I've been training for a very long time. And I was a kid when I was watching Sean make his pro debut and watching Pat Sabatini make his mark on local MMA. And Jeremiah Wells in particular, that's a good friend of mine. I love Jeremiah. That's a guy who, when you say we'll let you pick his brain, Jeremiah puts in the extra time talking to you. It doesn't matter if you're an amateur or professional. That guy will sit down with you and break down his technique, your technique, chat with you like you're an old friend. Those guys, I look up to them a lot, and just having them in the room and building on that atmosphere of, let's call it what it is, 16-0 in the UFC, 15-0 in the UFC. It's an atmosphere of greatness. You know what I mean? And all of our pros are doing these amazing things. And so I'm just happy to be following in their footsteps.
Ian, awesome. Let's talk about the future now. You just got, through your fight 2-0 undamaged. You're looking handsome. I don't see a mark on your face. Clearly you are feeling good. What do you think about, have you talked to your management? What do you think is in the near future for you as far as getting back in there?
I don't want to speak too soon, Bob. We're just getting out of it. My coaches, Julio and Justin Burke is a new addition to my team who from NPR. I'm sure you've met Justin before, but he's one of their striking coaches, and he and I struck up a quick friendship, and we're very close now. And he says to me, as soon as the fight's over, he's like, "Do not step foot on the mats for 2 weeks. We've been training hard for 10 months straight." More than that, obviously, because before October, when I made my re-debut, let's say, with CFFC, where I really showcased the new stuff for CFFC, when I took that short notice fight against Daimir Rappa, he's like, "Look, you've been working your ass off. Let's take 2 weeks. Don't even look at a pair of gloves, and then come back and see how you're feeling." But Bob, I tell you what, it's been a day and a half. I just went and cornered last night for Stellar Fights. I'm ready to step back onto that canvas as soon as possible. And I think I want to do. I know Cage Fury has a card coming up on December 10th. I'm thinking maybe I'll inquire about that down in Atlantic City, but no promises as of yet.
Awesome, man. Ian, listen, once again, Ian the Hammer Allston, 2-0. He is right there with Philly MMA, 2-0, and as a heavyweight, too. Let me get that in there. He doesn't look, if you're watching him here and you don't know Ian, he doesn't look like he's a heavyweight if you look at his face, but he's a big man, a big, powerful man, very agile. Ian, give some shout-outs or some love before we go, man. It was a great weekend for you and the team.
Oh, man. Okay. So, I mean, I just want to say one of the best parts of doing this and being local and having garnered the fan base that I have so far. I love being able to look out from the cage and see the Ian Allston shirts. I love seeing the faces of people I love out in the crowd. Thank you so much to everyone who supports me, to my parents, to my friends, and especially, you know, I have a girlfriend and a partner who's very supportive of what I do right now. I know it's very stressful for her. And so I'm very grateful that she sticks with me through all this BS. You know what I mean? It's a scary world out there in the MMA scene right now. But and my final thing I want to say is happy birthday, Coach Julio. His birthday was the day before the fight. I hope he enjoyed his birthday gift, that he's my main jiu-jitsu guy. He's been my coach for 11 years. I hope it was a good gift. And Bob, thank you for having me on. That's my last shout out.
It's a pleasure, man. Keep working hard. You know, I'm rooting for you, Philly MMA all the way. Ian, thanks for listen, your family, you said you're at a family out and you're probably saying, where's Ian? Thanks for giving me a few minutes, man. And keep doing what you're doing. It's a pleasure. It's fun to watch you fight. Let me just put it that way. And always a pleasure talking to you.
Anytime.